Welcome, everyone, to Influential Leadership Tips. I'm John Hadley.
And I'm Dave Miller. John, I wanted to talk about something I see often in corporate environments, and it comes down to the topic of obstacles.
Ooh, I like that one.
Yeah, and what I see is, and again, this is a generalization, but there's kind of an attitude of when an obstacle appears, that's an excuse to slow things down, to put things off, to move on to other things. And a lot of things don't get achieved or achieved to the extent they could get if these obstacles weren't tolerated or accepted so well. So we could brainstorm, what are the typical obstacles that come up that hold people back?
Well, I think sometimes it's just that I don't know how to solve this right now, so I put it aside. And how often have you gotten tripped up by you think something's moving along, and then you check back in and find out the person hasn't even been working on it for the last 2 weeks because they hit some snag, but they didn't think to bring it up. They just put that issue aside because it had a problem.
Right, or this is going to take a little work and there's other urgent things, but maybe not more important things, but urgent things that, oh, I'll just go do this. We gravitate to what's simpler. That's another one I can think of.
Or sometimes on projects, it's almost like I know the project it's going to be challenging to deliver it on time, and so this obstacle becomes a convenient excuse to say, okay, we can't deliver the project on time anymore, even though maybe if with a little application I could solve it or get around it and still make it, but it's like it becomes a convenient excuse.
Exactly, or so-and-so is going to be out this week, or we mind read, this particular executive won't like this direction, or we need to get their buy-in and they're not getting back to us. That's a typical one. Like you're waiting for someone to get back to you and they're not getting back, so it's like our hands are tied. And it's like, well, how much effort did you spend to try to get the answer?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes you may have to be a little bit of a nudge, So let me give you a little story. I was working with a client, and we were trying to put on a demonstration of some of the software that was developed to help them do their work better. And we were going to do kind of a demonstration of this. And we decided like a couple weeks before, so I had to work with HR on how do you do these lunch and learns, what's the process, so I get the whole thing kind of organized and set up, get the room reserved and the date, everything else. And then all of a sudden, like I need it's ready to pull the trigger and the head of HR is out. I'm trying to find someone to do the work, to be able to send the message because I can't do it, being an outside consultant. No one seems to know what to do. There's no kind of backup there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're running kind of low on time. We've got to get people signed up, in time. And I'm working with different people. We had to get lunch ordered, all this kind of thing. The holidays are coming up. So all kinds of obstacles. And it would have been really easy to say, let's just do this in January instead of December.
Mm-hmm.
And people were suggesting that. And I said, no, we've got to do this. I made up my mind. We're going to do this. I got some people maybe a little bit frustrated, not so much with me, but I had to get people out of their comfort zones. I had to follow up incessantly. I even had to order the lunch myself finally, because the person didn't know how to do it. And so, we got the thing going. We got the thing off, and it was a total success, and I'm so glad we did it. I'm so glad we didn't miss that opportunity, and it would have been easy. I know it's a kind of a simple example, and maybe not a super high level example of maybe other projects. It was a small project, but it had a big effect.
Yep. That reminds me of another simple example I ran into years ago. I was asked to do a career workshop at the local community college.
Mm-hmm.
And I show up, we had it all worked out. I have my PowerPoint, I have my laptop, I'm all set. Show up, take the flash drive to put into their computer because that's the only way you could hook into their system. The computer's locked. The person who organized it for me is not there. She just relied on the IT people to have set this up.
Mm-hmm.
There is nobody in the building
Yes.
who knows the password to unlock the computer. Now, there were only, I think, 6 people who showed up for the workshop. I could have just said, sorry, we've had a technical problem. I wasn't being paid to do it. They didn't pay anything for it. I could have just said, we're going to go do it another time.
Right.
But I said, we just don't have the technology tonight. Here's a flip chart. And just winged it from there because I knew my material pretty well.
Right.
We actually had a great workshop. And as a result, the person who had been the organizer, she said, well, could you come back and do this again for us in a couple months? And I said, sure. But I also said to myself, if they can only get 6 people here, I'm going to do a little promotion myself. We had 60 people show up for the next iteration. They were saying, wow, we've never had so many people show up for one of our career workshops. It was a huge success. And that probably wouldn't have happened if I just said, yeah, we're going to cancel tonight.
Yeah. Awesome. Great example. And look, my point is that I think it's often easy to get, there's almost a cultural feel to this, right? Where we can come up with all kinds of reasons why something can't be done. But once we made up our mind we're going to do something, let's not be so easy to accept the obstacles that show up. And obstacles will show up. And we want to plan for those ahead of time as best we can, but you can't always anticipate everything. And so leaders find ways to mitigate around those obstacles or eliminate them totally.
Yeah, really defines your reputation. When you get seen as the person who resolves these obstacles or moves forward despite the obstacles instead of just giving up and letting them rule you.
It's very powerful. So I want you viewers out there to think about that, to be aware when you're moving through your projects, when you're moving towards results. Where do obstacles hold you back, and are they really insurmountable? Should this really be causing a delay? Do we really need to move the deadline? Or can we double up, get resourceful, figure out ways around it? That's my tip. So look forward to talking to you next week.
Don't let any obstacles get in the way of watching the next video. And until then, be influential.